the theme of the show, velocity, is what this partnership is all about. We create velocity for operators if they want to adopt Open RAN, right? We simplify it. Wind River as a company has been around for 40 years. We were part of Intel at one point, and now we're independent, owned by a company called Aptiv. And with that, we get another round of investment to help continue our acceleration into this market. So, the Dell partnership is about, like I said, velocity, accelerating the adoption. When we talk to operators, they have told us there are many roadblocks that they face, right? Like systems integration, operating at scale. Because when you buy a traditional radio access network solution from a single supplier, it's very easy, it works, it's been tested. When you break these components apart and disaggregate them, as we talked about, David, it creates integration points and support issues, right? And what Dell and Wind River have done together is created a cloud infrastructure solution that could host a variety of RAN workloads and essentially create a two-layer cake. Overall, what we're trying to do is create a traditional RAN experience with the innovation, agility, and flexibility of Open RAN. And that's really what this partnership does. And what we find with a lot of carriers, they are used to buying, like I said, traditional RAN solutions, which are provided from a single provider like Ericsson or Nokia and others, right? And we break this apart, and you cloudify that network infrastructure. There's usually a skills gap we see at the operator level, right? And so from a developer standpoint, they struggle with having the expertise in order to execute on that. Wind River helps them, working with companies like Dell, simplify that bottom portion of the stack, the infrastructure stack, so we lifecycle manage it, we test, we're continuously testing it and integrating it so that the operator doesn't have to do that. In addition to that, Wind River also has a history and legacy of working with different RAN vendors, both disruptors like Mavenir and Parallel Wireless, as well as traditional RAN providers like Samsung, Ericsson, and others soon to be announced. So, what we're doing on the northbound side is making it easy by integrating that, and on the southbound side with Dell, so that again, instead of 4 or 5 solutions that you need to put together, it's simply 2.
We at Dell are also trying to find out, right? So we have been doing a lot of good work here to help our customers move in that direction. The work with Dish is an example of that. But I think we do understand the challenges as well in terms of adopting the technologies and adopting the innovation that's being driven by open. So one of the agendas that we have as a company this year is to work with the community to drive this a lot further, right? We want to have customers adopt the technology more broadly with the tier 1, tier 2 telcos globally. And our sales organizations are going to be working together with Wind Rivers to figure out who's the right set of customers to have these conversations with, so we can start driving this agenda a lot quicker than what we have seen historically.
All operators are deploying 5G in preparation for 6G, right? And we're all looking for those killer use cases which will drive top line revenue and not just make it a TCO discussion. And that starts at a very basic level today by doing things like integrating with Juniper for their cloud router. So instead of at the far edge cell site having a separate device that's doing the routing function, right? We take that and we cloudify that application, run it on the same server that's hosting the RAN applications, so you eliminate a device and reduce TCO. Now, with Aptiv, which is primarily known as an automotive company, we're having lots of conversations, including with Dell and Intel and others, about vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to-anything communication. And although that's a little bit futuristic, there are shorter-term use cases that, like vehicle-to-vehicle accident avoidance, which are going to be much nearer term than autonomous driving, for example, which will help drive traffic and new revenue streams for operators. Wind River, as you know, our legacy and history is in embedded devices like F-15 fighter jets, right? Or the Mars rover, or the James Webb Telescope, all run Wind River software. So we know about can't fail, ultra reliable systems. And the operators are not letting us off the hook whatsoever. It has to be as hardened and locked down, as secure as a traditional RAN environment, otherwise they won't do it.
That's table stakes.
That's table stakes, that gets us there. And Wind River, with our legacy and history, and having operator experience running live commercial networks with a disaggregated stack in the tens of thousands of nodes, understand what this is like, because they're running live commercial traffic with live customers, so we can't fail, right? And with that, they want their cake and eat it too, right? Which is, I want ultra reliable, I want what I have today, but I want the agility and flexibility to onboard third-party apps. Like for example, this JCNR, this Juniper cloud native router, you cannot do something as simple as that on a traditional RAN appliance. In an open ecosystem, you can take that workload and onboard it because it is an open ecosystem. And that's really one of the true benefits.
So they want the mainframe, but they want the flexibility of the developer cloud, right?
Yeah, that's right.
They want to have their cake, eat it too, and not gain weight.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is where our solution like infrastructure block is a foundational pillar to make that happen, right? So if we can take away the concerns that the organizations have in terms of security, reliability, from the fundamental elements that build their infrastructure by working with partners like Wind River, where Dell takes the ownership end to end to make sure that service works and we have those telco grade SLAs, then the telcos can start focusing on what's next, the applications and the customer services on the top.
Customer service, customer experience.
You know, that's an interesting point Gautam brings up too, because support is an issue too. We all talk about when you break these things apart, it creates integration points that you need to manage, right? But there's also the support aspect of it. So imagine, if you will, you had one vendor, you have an outage, you call that one vendor, one necktie to choke, right? For accountability for the network. Now you have 4 or 5 vendors that you have to work. You get a lot of finger pointing. So at least at the infrastructure layer, right? Dell takes first call support for both the hardware infrastructure and the Wind River cloud infrastructure for both, and we are training and spinning them up to support, but we're always behind them, of course, as well.
Yeah.
The big one now, particularly with Vodafone, is energy costs, right?
Oh, of course, greening the network.
Two-thirds of the energy consumption in Iran is the radio access network. Okay, the OpEx, right? So any reductions, even if they're 5% or 10%, can save tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. So, we do things creatively with Dell to understand if there's a lot of traffic at the cell side, and if it's not, we will change the C state or P state of the server, which basically spins it down so it's not consuming power. But that's just at the infrastructure layer. Where this gets really powerful is working with the RAN vendors like Samsung and Ericsson and others, and taking data from the traffic information there, applying algorithms to that and AI to shut it down and spin it back up as needed. Because the idea is, you don't want that thing powered up if there's no traffic on it.
Well, there's a sustainability, ESG benefit to that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's very compute intensive.
Yeah.
100%,
Right, which is great for Dell, but at the same time, if you're not able to manage that power consumption, the whole thing fails. I mean, because there's going to be so much data.
Yeah.
And such an intense requirement.
Yeah.
So this is a huge issue. Okay, so Scott, you're saying that in the TCO equation, a big chunk is energy consumption.
On the OpEx piece.
Right.
Now, there's also the CapEx, right? And Open RAN solutions are now, what we've heard from our customers today, they're roughly at parity, because you can do things like repurpose servers after the useful life for a lower demand application, which helps the TCO, right? Then you have situations like Juniper where you can take now software that runs on the same device, eliminating a whole other device at the cell site. So we're not just taking a server and software point of view, we're taking a whole cell site point of view as it relates to both CapEx and OpEx.